Welcome back to your live continuing official coverage of Toy Fair 2015 with the Toy Industry Association on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. Thanks so much for joining us. You know, we're coming to the end of the first day. We still have a lot of show to get to, but it's been amazing. It's really exciting here. We're at the Jacob K. Javits Center in New York City. It is packed. There is literally not another foot of space. And that is due in large part to the great job that the Toy Industry Association does of making this event special. You've heard from people about how they need to be here and they want to be here next year. You've heard from people about the inspiring stories of when they're here, what happens to their business and how they can be seen and get the word out about their business. You've heard about how this is a really great place for toy stores that are independents to come and find product, and of course the big boys to come and find product as well. Well, Carter Keithley is the president of the TIA, a wonderful organization we're so proud to have partnered with to bring you this coverage, and we look forward to doing it for many years to come. And he's here, he's the president, he's here to join us. Thank you so much. We're honored and privileged and so proud to be doing this with you guys, and it's a privilege and an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege for me to be here. We're thrilled to have you guys here because, as you said, it's all about the visibility and the promotion of the show and the products, and you help do that. So.
Well, thank you so much. We love what we've seen so far. I've wanted to come to this show. I've said this all day long since I was a little kid, probably since I saw the movie Big.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that toy industry is so much fun in general.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, everybody smiles, even coming to your offices. You know, it's just a ball of fun. You have great people and a great staff. Yeah. I think the most important thing though here is that this is really a place for people to really show off innovation and to move. It's really about progress.
Yeah, absolutely. The creativity that you see here at Toy Fair always amazes me every year because every year there is all kinds of new stuff, and you walk down the aisle and you think, gosh, I wish I'd thought of that, you know, because what drives the industry, what has always driven the toy industry is the creativity. So.
I think what's interesting is this can make a whole company's year. It can get them going.
Absolutely.
It can get them started. We hear so many inspired stories here today. We just heard a story of some guys who came to check it out, right?
Yeah.
And they want to come back next year.
Yeah.
And I know that there are a lot of people in the audience who are already saying they have product ideas, and it's inspiring them to bring them to the light of day or to be here next year, and that's great. But I think that what you guys are doing is it's almost like a service.
Well, it is a service. In fact, we're a not-for-profit trade association, but in effect, we have to make a profit every year or we wouldn't continue to be in business. But we're not for-profit. What we are for is service. And so I don't have to worry about how much profit I make. I just have to be sure that I'm not losing money every year. And to do that, it means that I have to provide, our organization has to provide opportunities for every one of these companies to succeed. And as I said before, you know, the creativity is the driving force of the toy business. And while it's true that the big companies, you know, have staffs of people delivering creativity to them, a lot of times it's that little garage enterprise that comes up with something brand new that nobody ever thought of. In fact, even the big companies started in a garage, so.
It's very, very true. I got to ask you something I've been asking everybody. When you think back to your childhood, what was your favorite toy?
My Lionel trains.
Love it.
Yeah.
And we learned today that they're in the Toy Hall of Fame, the National Toy Hall of Fame.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And what do you think it is that makes trains so special for boys?
You know, I don't know, but there is something about it. In fact, when I took this position back in 2006, one of my thrills was that in my office, there is a commemorative engine and coal tender presented to the Toy Industry Association on the occasion of the 100th Toy Fair. This is the 112th Toy Fair. And it's one of the prizes in my office. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And so there's just something about it that even with all the new technology stuff, you know, the remote control, hovercraft and all that stuff, trains are still a big item.
Yes, so. Absolutely. And I think that one of the trends is seeing all these drones come around, but become toys. And I think they're cool because they allow the kids to really learn about the art of flight and all sorts of other things and be able to modify them themselves, much like I did with slot cars when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it takes some skill too. Yeah. You know, I mean, one of the fun things about playing is developing skill. We've been trying to deliver that message as much as we can, that that play is a child's work in the sense that that's how they develop, that's how they learn motor skills and interpersonal skills and logic skills.
What I think is so interesting is that Toy Fair has taken on such a international character. I think that's been an initiative for you when you came in. Can you talk about that and the transition of Toy Fair over the last decade?
Yeah, all of American industry used to be quite satisfied, thank you very much, with the American market itself. They never had to look overseas necessarily to expand their businesses. That's an overstatement, obviously, the automobile business, et cetera, but so many other industries were quite satisfied with the size of their market here in the U.S. Not so much anymore for a lot of industries, including the toy industry. Because all of the growth in the toy business, all the growth in the toy market is overseas. In the year 2000, the North American toy business was about $24 billion, and the global toy business was about $54 billion. In the year 2015, the North American toy business is about $24 billion, but the global toy business is about $84 billion. So you can see all the growth has been overseas. So if you want to grow your business, you've got to look at some of these overseas markets. So how do you do that? Well, you can go to some of the overseas toy fairs, but that's an expensive proposition. Better for us to bring the overseas toy retail buyers to you here in New York City. And so that's what we're busy doing. We've got editorial and advertising content in toy trade press magazines around the world. We have more than doubled our international participation in Toy Fair just in the last 3-4 years. So bringing those buyers in, and we've canvassed all the exhibitors here to say, are you export ready? So we've got a list of those that say, yeah, I'm ready. And we also have programs as the association to help them get in. Now that's one aspect in terms of helping our U.S. toy companies get overseas. And we make it a point to tell the retailers from overseas that if they're only going to shows in Nuremberg or Hong Kong or London or wherever, they're not seeing 80% of the toy creativity that is originating right here in the United States, because 80% of it doesn't go to those shows.
Right.
They've got to come here to see that, and they can use those toys to distinguish themselves from their competing retailers in their own marketplace. So that's one side of things. The other side of it is the toy retailer market right here in the United States. If you want to sell toys into the North American market, this is the gateway to do it.
One of the coolest things I've seen so far here is, I'm into cars.
Yeah.
I'm big into cars. Is a
big boy toys.
Big boy toys.
Right.
There's a Korean company that's here, and it was so fascinating to hear their story, just walking the floor, and they've got this little motorized car, electric-powered car, and it's got racing harnesses kind of, but it's not like that. It goes like 5 miles an hour.
Right.
But it's just really great to see this and to see them come here and say, and it was very innovative. It had all sorts of controls and safety features for the kids to be able to learn, something. And obviously this is not a totally new category, but they're very innovative in the way they've approached it.
Well, exactly, and it doesn't have to be absolutely new to be really appealing and imaginative and creative. And I've got to go around and find that now. It's very intriguing. But for example, last night we had our Toy of the Year award event.
Yes, and we know that WowWee won for their MIP robot, which I thought was really cool, an innovation award. And we're going to have a lot of the winners on the show, which we're excited about.
Oh, good, terrific, yeah. And there's an Australian company that opened up the North American market just 3 years ago, and last night they got a Toy of the Year award in their category.
What was the toy?
Moose. It was Moose Industries.
Yeah, we're going to have them on.
Good.
We're excited about that.
Yeah, it's a great company. And it was interesting when the fellow got the award, he credited his mother with bringing some of the creativity to the table.
I think getting back to when you said about even the big companies started in garages, we've heard so many inspirational stories, especially from inventors, and how hard it is to get started, but they push through and they persevere, and basically if you want to do something bad enough, you can set your mind to it and make it happen. Of course, doing the right things, coming to Toy Fair, doing things like that really help. but it's just so interesting to hear all the stories here about how, anything's possible, especially when you come to Toy Fair.
Yeah, that's true. And people think that it's what's so hard about making and selling a toy, right? Well, let me tell you, it is very complicated. And in fact, last night we heard some of the winners of the Toy of the Year awards in different categories say, that they were working on this particular toy for 2 or 3 years before they brought it to market. It requires an understanding. Not only do you have to have a good idea, but you have to source materials that are allowed in toys. You have to be sure that it meets all the safety standards. In fact, the toy industry, we're very proud that the U.S. toy industry created the first toy safety standards about 70 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we had Joan on before.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay, good.
And that was very educational, very important, and it was
Exactly.
so great to hear from her. But
Yep.
I was gonna praise you and say that I love that you guys have always taken such initiative in
Yeah.
that and work
Yeah.
with the government to create the standards and guidelines
Yeah.
and test a lot of
Yeah.
toys and the way toys are tested.
Yeah. It was one of the things that attracted me to the position here with TIA, and that is when I did the research on the industry, I could tell that the industry had always tried to do the right things. It's not always perfect, but we
Right.
always try to do the right things and welcome in information that will help us make sure that we're keeping kids safe. But I don't want to get too far into that. I just want everybody to understand that in order to make sure that toy designers are familiar with all of the rules and regulations and what helps children develop and all that stuff, we have 2 very robust toy design programs, one on each coast. There's a robust one here at the Fashion Institute of Technology, which is about 25 years old now, the toy design program, and there's one out at Otis College in Los Angeles, which is about 20 years old. And it's a 3-year program. Here at FIT, you get a master's in it. Out there in California, you get a bachelor's degree in toy design. So
Very nice.
Yeah,
I like that. That's you guys are so involved and ingrained in the education of toys and toy building. It's really great. We've got a live chat room. I didn't mention that at the beginning of this particular interview, but we've got a live chat room going. So a couple of notes from the chat room. Ben said he loves the Lionel trains and has a lot of sets, would never get rid of them. Paul Dixon, watching in the UK, says that in the UK, Hornby was the main train for people, and they still are, and he loves his trains.
Yep.
And then, of course, the steam engines. So now the conversation goes to, you mentioned hovercrafts and hover devices and trains. When are we going to get toys that are hover trains or maglev trains? And then, of course, the conversation goes into Back to the Future, Back to the Future 2, 3.
Wouldn't that be
and all
cool?
that. But do you think that we'll see, I remember building in middle school a maglev train.
Really?
Yeah, we did it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
that's very cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think that we'll see this kind of thing in the future?
I think so. I mean, what's amazing to me, we have often said that the toy industry is a technology trailing industry. Mm-hmm. The price of our goods is so low. We're known as a low value product.
But I do like that though. With having a young son, it's nice because he can use it, and then a year from now he's on to the next thing, and I don't have to worry about, oh wow, we spent what on that.
Absolutely, and believe me, as I remember when I was a young parent, and you are young when you're a parent typically, and so you don't have a lot of money, and so in order to provide toys to your kids, our industry has to keep them inexpensive. So we don't have the kind of revenue streams that will enable us to create new technology. So what we do is our industry people do. What our industry people do is they take technology that has been created for other purposes, and once it becomes ubiquitous and inexpensive and is demonstrated to be safe, we re-employ it in creative new ways in toys. So now, for example, and this is an example that I think also illustrates our dedication to safety. These little round magnets that were created for other industrial purposes, particularly strong magnets. When our industry, and they became inexpensive and everybody had them, our industry figured out a way to make construction toys out of them. And they sold 1 million of them because they're so much fun to play with. Well, what we didn't anticipate, and this is one of the things that makes it difficult in the toy industry, and we try and anticipate everything, but you can't anticipate everything.
Of course not.
It was tragic. A little 3-year-old apparently picked up some magnets, the round magnets that had become liberated, as they say, from the construction piece, and swallowed them. And they stick together in your intestines, and they close off your intestines. And so the child began to have symptoms of illness, and they took them to the hospital, couldn't figure out what was wrong with them, and the child tragically died. It breaks your heart. So they took some x-rays, and that's when they learned that this is what had happened. So our industry instantly got on it. We created a new standard so that the magnets could not be liberated from the construction piece, and you had to meet that standard in order to sell the toy. Well, then we learned that young boys, being young boys, decided they would purposely swallow the whole construction piece so they could be Magnet Man and stick spoons to their belly and that sort of thing.
That is young boys, yes, at their finest.
Exactly. So then we had to go in and rewrite the standard, and we did all of this in record time. Rewrite the standard so that the pieces were too big to swallow.
I love that. I love how fast the industry moved twice, and it's a terrible and tragic story, but I love that the industry realized there's an issue, and it didn't have to be 20 kids, didn't have to be 5 kids, one child.
Just one is enough.
And it's unfortunate.
One is too many.
It's unfortunate, but at least the correction was made as quickly as possible, and I commend that and love it, and think it's so important, and so I think that the industry does such a great job of that.
But what made me think of that, of course, is you said you actually built a maglev train.
Did.
That is so cool.
Mine was the worst one in the class. I'm not going to pretend like I got. It was cool, but mine had weight issues and stuff like that. And it would float kind of look like a keeling ship.
Look what you learned from it.
I learned a ton. Yes.
There you go.
And one of the things was get somebody else to build it for me when I have the concept. But no, I did learn a lot of good things, and it was a lot of fun. And the kids in the class had a lot of fun with it, and we learned a lot. And even Gord is watching in the chat room and says maglev trains are pretty cool. So we got to figure out a way to make that happen eventually.
So,
I think it will.
Yeah. So as that technology
there's an idea.
Cheaper,
we're going to have somebody at Toy Fair next year, as a startup. We've got maglev trains.
That's right. That's right. So I think that'd be very cool.
What about the Anki, the products that work with the smartphones? And I bring up them, I'm not trying to be brand specific, but they were like the first, in my mind. It's like a slot car without the
Isn't that cool?
slot car track.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
And it kind of there's got to be some, I don't know,
maglev.
Something.
I don't know.
But, how about that technology?
Yeah.
And the way that stuff progresses that way?
See, that's a wonderful example of how that kind of technology has become inexpensive enough to employ in toys. Yeah. I mean, typically, if a toy sells for more than $29.95, it's going to stay on the shelf a while, And how do you? Here's another example of the complexity of the toy business. How do you manufacture a toy like that inexpensively, safely, meeting all the safety standards, having it tested for safety and all that stuff, have it robust enough so that it will withstand, a child's abuse and all that stuff, and then deliver it, containers full of it, to the marketplace. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
It's very hard. To me, there are two trends that I love right now that are going on in the industry, and I'd love for you to talk about both of them. One is about getting kids back to being active, getting them back outside. I love video games and all that stuff, and it's all good. We talk about it all the time, but getting kids to be more active, and we see a lot of that here. Whether it be on these, trike things or whatever it is, just getting them to be more active and more fit. And then the other trend that I see a lot, I think that is really great, is getting them into kind of engineering and creativity and getting them to think, and I would just call that the entire education space of toys is becoming a lot more prevalent.
Yeah, it's not an either or kind of proposition. It's sort of both. You hear people complaining about screen time and what have you. Well, why is it necessarily better to have a child sitting in a chair reading a paper book than having a child sitting in a chair reading an iBook? I'm not sure why it's better that way. Now, you know, whether it was sitting reading a paper book and being always inactive, or you know, an electronic book and being inactive, you want them to have the activity as well. So the challenge to our industry is to find creative toys to encourage young, you know, boys and girls to be outside playing and being active. And there's still a lot of interest in it. We're thrilled to see parents being interested in that. You know, it's just a healthy lifestyle.
And I love that the books are becoming more engaging when they go electronically. They're becoming more interactive, and also sometimes they're getting them up and doing things. And I love when they can use the electronic devices to make them active as well. And again, there's nothing wrong with video gaming. We're all about it, or gaming, or learning. There are so many great benefits to that, and how you can learn, especially when you can game with other people across the world and communicate with them and stuff like that. So that is wonderful. You know, speaking of trains, I just got a note from my wife, Jill, that my son Jack is now building his own tracks. He is 21 months old. I thought I'd announce it. I just literally just came through. And he, you know, I said earlier in the day that this kid, literally what's amazing about little kids is every day they learn something new, something they couldn't do before. They'd have a puzzle, and today they can't figure out how the pieces fit together, and tomorrow you look at them and they've got them together.
Isn't that amazing?
He's a train kid.
Yeah.
He loves choo-choo, he goes. He loves the trains. He's building his own tracks right now, which is amazing. And I think that's pretty awesome. And I think that's a testament to the toys and how they can allow the children to progress and learn.
Yeah, you know, and one thing that we are always conscious of is that toys get played with in ways that we don't anticipate. It's one of the reasons we have to try and anticipate things to make sure they're played with them safely. But we recently did, we had a firm work with us to do some little home videos about how kids use toys in imaginative ways.
We heard about this earlier
Did you?
today. The Genius of Play, thegeniusofplay.org.
And if your viewers haven't seen it, I would encourage them to take a look at it, because what it shows is how kids will. You know, there's one little boy. It's the cutest guy. We gave him a rubber ducky and a slinky, and what did he do? You know, he made a tunnel out of the slinky, and he said, "Now here comes the rubber ducky landing on its face." You know, and it's just played down in this water pond and so forth. You know, and it's just creative ways that they use toys that maybe the toy wasn't intended to be used that way, but that's not the point, how it was intended, you know?
I just always wonder what they're thinking. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, it is truly amazing.
What about you? What's the most fun you've had since joining the TIA? Is there one story or one thing that jumps out of your mind when I say what's the most fun? Or a toy you've just had a ball playing with or tinkering with or gone, wow, look at that. That's unbelievable.
We love them all.
No, I know you do it. I'm not asking you to be partisan to somebody. And we're very careful. We don't want to call out too much. We want to give everybody fair time and talk a lot about the industry. But is there some experience you've had where you just went, wow, who even knew this was possible?
Well, I guess I'm really taken by the remote control stuff.
Yeah.
I have a close friend who is a historian and is a buff on World War II aviation, and so I've I've taken photographs of these of remote control. You know, they have model planes that are British Zeros or American P-47s or the Messerschmitts and so forth. You know, and I've said, Terry, I said, when I retire, we're going to get into this in a big way, you know?
That's amazing. That's really awesome. I like that. And then is there one toy that has stood the test of time for you, like the Slinky, that you are just like, I cannot believe this toy, in my mind, even being in the toy industry, is still popular to this day. You know, again, we're not singling out somebody, just where you're like, hey, I mean, it's surprising.
And I can name one right off the bat that everybody knows and everybody loves and everybody still plays with, and that's frankly the board game Monopoly. You know,
love it.
I mean,
that was my favorite game.
Everybody still plays that game. You know, we played it with our boys when they were young. They're often grown and gone now. You know, but Fran and I, we still play it from time to time. It's just a great game. You know, and one of the fun things about it, we're about to put our Toy Industry Hall of Fame, which celebrates the achievements of people in the industry who have created the toys. We're about to put that, in September we'll do a ribbon cutting at the Strong Museum of Play up in Rochester, New York, which is a spectacular facility. And they also have the Toy Hall of Fame, which is the toys themselves. So they will be, cheek by jowl, the people and the toys. And the reason I bring that up is because they have the most amazing archive of antique toys and original toys in the world, including the first Monopoly game.
Wow.
So, I mean, you got to see it. You got to see it.
Well, we've talked to them. We want to get up there. We're told
Good.
September is when the ribbon cutting will be,
Ribbon
somewhere
cutting
around
in
there.
September. Good.
Okay, we're looking
Yep.
forward to it. We want to be there. And
Good.
also next year, we'd love to also stream the Toy Awards that you guys do live as well.
I hope you will. I hope you will.
We're
That
so
would be
happy
helpful.
to be doing this with you. We look forward to
Yeah.
many continued years of great success and a lot of fun. You guys are unbelievable. The Toy
Oh, it's
Industry
nice of you to say
Association is
that, Michael.
unbelievable. And you guys have done a marvelous job here at Toy Fair. I can't believe this is only day one and that we've got so much more to cover, and it's been so exciting so far. So thank you. All I can say is keep on keeping on.
Thank you for being here, Michael.
Carter-
Thank you. And you've made this easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Carter
Okay.
Keithley. We'll be back with a little bit more here from day one at Toy Fair 2015. This is your official live continuing coverage of Toy Fair 2015 with the Toy Industry Association on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. Stay with us.